Hi guys, just to start off with what you will need, you will need a bowl, of course, to mix all of your stuff in. I'm using a whisk. I usually use an electric blender, but I don't feel like bringing that out tonight. And then just any box cake mix that you prefer. It doesn't have to be white or vanilla. That's just personally my favorite. I think it tastes the best, but you could use chocolate, red velvet, devil's food, really anything you would like, but I'm just going to go with the classic white. And then to go with the box cake mix, you just use whatever that it calls for. Different cake mixes, different brands, they all call for different ingredients. Mine calls for 3 eggs, and then a half a cup of oil, which I have right here, and 1 cup of water, which I'm gonna get out of the faucet. This is completely optional as well. I just thought it was really neat. I saw it at Walmart. It was only $3. It's actually a stand made just for cake pop decorating. But you can also go to your local craft store or anywhere, even Dollar Tree. They actually have the little blocks of like flour foam or styrofoam. You can stick the sticks in that, save you some money. I was just at Walmart anyways picking all this stuff up, so I thought I would go ahead and get that. And then you will need treat sticks. I also got these from Walmart. They're like $2 for 50 sticks. You can use wooden skewers, really anything. I just thought these would be the best. And then you're also going to need candy melts. Ooh, my eggs are on the way. Like I said, you're going to need candy melts. Once again, you can do these in any color that you would like. Mine are going to be like spring themed, as you'll see. I'm going to do like a pink outside, and then on the inside it's going to be like a light green. And then to decorate, once again, these are completely versatile. You can do whatever you would like. I just thought it would be really pretty to put these white sugar pearls on the outside. And then to bind all of the cake together, you'll just need any kind of frosting. Once again, anything you would like, but I'm personally just going to go with the classic vanilla. I like this one in particular. It has no high fructose corn syrup. It says it's natural. Personally, this is my favorite brand. So that's all you would need, and of course you're going to need a stove. Hey guys, to start out with, you just want to turn on your oven to whatever your package says. My particular cake mix instructed me to turn it up to 350, so I'm going to go ahead and do that and let my oven warm up. Alright, and while my oven is warming up, I'm going to go ahead and start mixing up my cake mix according to the package directions. Hi guys, so this is what the cake mix, whatever kind you're using, should look like when you're done mixing it up. As soon as all the lumps are out, that's when you want to stop mixing, because I have been notorious for over mixing my cake mix, and that will make it turn out very dense and very dry and just not very good. So right now I'm actually still waiting for my oven to preheat. It's still taking its time, and as I said that, it turns off, so it's ready to go. So I'll be back for the next step. Hey guys, this is completely optional, but I always like to spray my baking pans just because, as you can see, they're very old. So the cakes do have a tendency to stick. The good thing about this, though, is it doesn't really matter what you bake it in. You can bake it in a freaking dog bowl for all that I, care. Reason being is because when we're done baking, we're actually going to crumble these up, so it doesn't really matter. So I'm going to go ahead, I already sprayed these. I'm going to evenly combine my cake mixes just so they bake evenly into both of my pans, and I'll be back to show you what it looks like before I go in the oven. Now that I have the cake mixes evenly distributed into the pans, according to my package directions, like I said, I'm going to say probably a million other times, it depends on what cake mix you use, would depend on how long you bake it. But for mine, it says to bake 29 to 33 minutes, so I'm going to go ahead and put my cakes in the oven and let them bake. Hi guys, I'm back. These are what my cakes look like fresh out of the oven. I have a very powerful oven apparently when it comes to baking cakes, because this took less than like 20 minutes and it called for up to 30 minutes. It was done in probably like right at 19 minutes, and they're fully baked. I stuck a toothpick in it and it came out clean. So what I'm going to do now, like I said, we're not worried about what the cakes turn out looking like because we're going to crumble them up in a bowl anyways. And these need to be completely cool, and I find it cools a lot quicker if you cut it. So I'm just going to cut it into 8s or whatever. I'm going to do this to both my cakes, and I will come back when they are completely cool. Guys, once again, this is completely optional. But like I said, I want these to be kind of like spring themed. So when my coworkers bite into the cake pops, I want it to come out like a light springy green color. So what I've done is I've taken 2 tablespoons of my prepackaged frosting. I'm only using 2 tablespoons because less is more, and with cake pops you really don't know how much you're going to need. I could end up not even using all of this. And I'm just going to start out with a liquid green food coloring. You can use whatever kind you like. And I think I'm just going to start off with 1 drop because I don't want it to be too bright. And I'm just Okay, so this is the green color that I came out with. Like I said, I don't want it too bright. I added 1 more drop because I remembered, you know, I do have to add this to a full cake. So it might lighten up a little bit, but that's okay. The reason that I didn't add the dye to the actual cake dough is because it can tend to seep in to the cake morsels that haven't absorbed into the icing, if that makes any sense. And it'll be like darker in some places than it is in other places. So I find it easier to just dye the icing. And I'm just gonna come back to you when my cake is completely cooled and we'll finish up. Hi guys, my cakes have just about completely cooled. So the last step before I start crumbling my cake, I'm just gonna take a regular baking sheet and I put a little bit of parchment paper over it. And this is just to put the dough after I've done forming my balls. And this is what we'll be sticking into the freezer until we dip. Alright guys, my cakes are pretty much completely cooled. They're completely cool to the touch. It only took about 15 minutes. I did use the help of the refrigerator, which is a little cheat since it is a little bit late. I'm trying to get this done. So what we're going to do is I have a bowl here. You can use any kind of bowl. And I'm just going to kind of make sure your hands are clean, of course. You're just going to take like 2 pieces. And what I like to do is just rub them against each other just to kind of make crumbs. And depending on how crusty your cake is, you can, or how soft your cake is, you can get away with using the crust. And some cakes, depending on how they cook, you have to get rid of them. My cake is actually very, very moist. So I'm just going to stick with the cake. I mean, with the crumbs. With the crust. I can't talk. Stick with the crust. And basically what we're going to do, we're just going to crumble all of our cake up like this. And I'll be back to show you what it looks like when I'm done. Guys, this is what the cake should look like after you've crumbled it. And then when I was done crumbling it, I kind of took it and I kind of squeezed it in my hand just to see the texture of it. As you can see, it's already very moist. This is the cake mix that contains pudding in it, so I'm not going to need that much frosting. When I do like this, it still crumbles a little bit, so I will need a little bit. As I started going through my cakes, I saw that the ends of the cake were a little bit crunchy, so I did go ahead and take those out. Now, you definitely don't have to throw these away. These are really good to eat. I actually ate a couple of pieces while I was crumbling. I just couldn't resist myself. But I will be back. I'm going to show you how to mix in the frosting, and we'll get started with the dipping. Anyways, like I said, I think it's a good idea before you add any frosting, just kind of play around with your cake mix just to make sure, 1, you get all the lumps out, and 2, just to kind of see the texture of the cake. It depends on the cake mix that you have. Like I said, with this one, I know I'm definitely not going to need a lot of frosting at all because this is a very moist cake mix. So I'm going to start out with maybe about a tablespoon of my frosting. About a half a tablespoon. I might not even need that much. And it does get messy here. I've seen people use spoons, but I find that the best way to do this is to just go all at it and use your hands. So we're just going to mix this up until we get the texture that we're looking for. And you want the texture to almost be kind of like Play-Doh. Get it mixed in there really good. This smells so good. The green color isn't really coming up like I would like it to. So what I'm going to do before I add any more icing, because the food coloring that I use is liquid, I'm actually going to add a little bit of my food coloring. Maybe about 2-3 drops. We're just going to go ahead and mix this in. This is a messy job, but it'll be so worth it. I'm going to get this to the texture that I like, and the texture that it should be, and I'll be back to show you what it looks like when I'm finished. Alright guys, I am back. This is the consistency that you want when you are done adding your icing and mixing in and all that stuff like that. Like I said, it's just like a Play-Doh. The only tip that I would have at this point is, like I said in the beginning, when you add food coloring directly to the cake, it tends to want to stay in the area that you put the food coloring. Like you can see, there's some areas that have more green, and then there's other areas that are more lighter from just the frosting. So what I would do is when you dye the frosting, add quite a bit if you want a vibrant color. That's what I was going for, but that's completely okay. This is going to be covered up. And yeah, I'm going to start forming balls, and I'll be back to show you that. Alright guys, this part is really simple. Basically all you're doing is you're taking well, not really handfuls. I'm going to take probably like a pinch. It depends, I mean, it's really up to you how big you want your cake balls to be. And I'm just going to start forming these into balls. I'll show you a couple just to kind of get the gist of it. I find it easy if you kind of cup your hands like this as opposed to doing it flat like this and roll it into a ball. And that's what it looks like. And then we're just going to place this on our parchment paper. And let me show you one more. And this will probably make about, I want to say the size that I'm making, probably about 10 to 15 cake balls, but we'll see in the end. Try to make them all as evenly as possible. They don't have to be perfect. These are homemade. Here's your second cake ball. Alright, and I'm just going to finish putting these on the parchment paper, and I'll be back to show you when I'm finished. That I've done rolled. They're not the prettiest things right now, but after I cover them with chocolate, I'm sure they'll look better. The only tip at this point, I would say, maybe depending on personal preference, I would have made these smaller, but once again, I'm kind of in a stretch for time, so these are a little bit larger than I would like them to be, but that's okay, they'll still work. This is my first time, I haven't mentioned this, but this is my first time making cake balls. It looks like there's a little bit of cracking going on. I don't know how that's going to affect when I put the melting chocolate on, but we will see. So right now what I'm going to do, I'm actually going to place these in the freezer for about 15 minutes just to let them harden. And then we'll go into the dipping and decorating. Alright guys, about 2 to 3 minutes before your cake pops come out of the freezer, you want to start melting your candy wafers. And I like to do this in a tall glass as opposed to a bowl. That way you can just do one straight stick down without having to roll it around in the bowl, trying to risk the cake ball actually falling off of the stick. And there's really no exact measurements. Just go based off of how many cake balls that you made. I'm just going to fill it up probably about, I don't know, let me see. I need to open this a little bit more. Stand by, we're having some technical difficulties. Okay, I'm probably going to fill it up probably to about right there, so about halfway full. And depending on what kind of candy melts you are using, just follow the package directions. But with any kind of candy melt, you like to do it in short bursts. Don't do it all at once, because then some of the candy won't melt at all, and then some of it will burn. It'll just be disastrous. As you can see, I had to heat my candy melts and burst, but when you're done, the consistency should be like this, very smooth, no lumps, anything like that, just a very smooth consistency. And what I'm going to do, I just let it sit for about, I don't know, 1 to 2 minutes. And I want it to harden, but I do want it to cool a little bit before I start dipping my cake in. And there's actually one more step that I'm going to show you before that, and I'll be right back. Alright guys, now that my balls have been in the freezer for about 15-16 minutes, they have firmed up quite a bit. What I'm going to do now, I'm going to take my treat sticks or lollipop sticks, whatever you have, whatever you're using, and I'm going to cut them open. And I'm just going to show you 1 or 2, and then I'm going to speed up the rest just for video purposes. And I'm actually going to take the stick and I'm going to dip it into my candy melt. Make sure to coat it generously. Very generously. And then I'm going to take it and stick it, not all the way, just about halfway through my cake pop. Just like that. I'll show you a little bit closer. So it looks like this. And the purpose of this is so the cake inside has something to stick to. I'll show you one more. So I take the treat stick, dip it in the candy melt, coat it quite generously. And then I'm just going to stick the pop halfway into the ball, not all the way. And I'm going to do this to all of my cake balls, and I'll be right back. Hey guys, so this is what the cake pops look like after I have dipped the sticks and then stuck the sticks into the pops. What I'm going to do now, I'm actually going to stick this back in the freezer for about another 5 minutes, just to let the candy mitts harden and the cake pops adhere to the actual sticks, and we'll be back to finish dipping. Okay guys, here's the moment of truth. Like I said, my first time ever making cake pops. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to start off with this one. It does seem pretty frozen, pretty stuck to the stick. We're just going to take it and in one single action, dip it all the way down until it comes up over, and then we're going to pull it out. And it's not as pretty as I've seen on Pinterest, but for a first time I can't complain. And then what I'm going to do, I'm going to kind of twirl it like this and stick it onto my cake pop stand. and try to not mess up what I've done. It's dripping a little bit, but it's okay. We're all learning here. And then I'm just going to take a few of these sprinkles. Like I said, this is completely optional, and sprinkle them all over just to make it a little bit prettier. And I'm going to do that to all of these, and I'll be back to show you the finished results. Okay guys, I'm not finished and I'm not giving up yet, but we had a little bit of a mishap. The last two that I tried to do, they fell off in the chocolate. I don't know why. These two look really good. These did good at first, but now they're cracking. So I don't know. I'm going to finish these up. I don't know any other way to do it. But like I said, we're learning together. So if you have any suggestions or reasons for why this is happening, leave it in the comments below, and I'll be back. Alright guys, so these are my completed cake pops. All in all, I don't think they turned out too terribly bad. Like I said, we had a couple of ones that fell off, and a couple are cracking, which I'm not really sure why. Some of them are cracking and some of them are not. Like I said, if you know, definitely leave in the comment below why. My grandmother, I got her to taste them. This is what they look like on the inside. What did you say? They taste?
You can taste the frosting, but it makes you think that...
She said that the cake tastes a little bit raw, even though it's not. It's just, I guess, the frosting, the texture of the frosting made the cake a little bit too soft. So maybe next time I would suggest leaving out the frosting if I do attempt these again. They look so good. I wish I could eat one, but I'm not. So yeah, this is the end result. We did have some leakage on the bottom, but when that dries, that'll be easy to break off. And I'll show you what they look like in the morning after I get done storing them.